To djournal.com. Today we are speaking with Tupelo's man in Hollywood, Chris Beachum. Chris is the living embodiment that if you follow your passion, good things can happen. He's now a managing editor for goldderby.com, living in Beverly Hills, meeting stars left and right, and reporting, putting some serious information out there about the Oscar race. And he's taken some time to speak to us about handicapping and what's going to happen on this coming Sunday. Chris, welcome aboard.
Well, thanks. It's so good to be talking to somebody in Tupelo. I'm hanging out with all these California people all the time.
Yeah, but they're all stars, and so that's okay.
I don't know about all stars, but there are a lot of parties and events, that's for sure.
Well, hey, let's dive right in with let's start with Best Picture, if you don't mind. Even though it's the last category of the night, Oscars, let's make it our first category.
Okay.
What do you think's got the lead going into it?
This is a tough year, for several years in a row. I think it's one of the easier categories. Last year was tough too. It came down to Birdman and Boyhood, and I went the wrong way there. It seems like it's three movies. The Revenant, that stars Leo DiCaprio, Spotlight, has a big cast, and The Big Short, which has a big cast. Everything for a while was pointing toward The Big Short. It won the Producers Guild Award, which they've been right, I think, 8 years in a row. But lately, The Revenant has really taken off with voters. It won at the British Academy last week. It won the Directors Guild. So that's what I've got my money on right now, is The Revenant.
All right. Well, I've seen some people talking about how great Mad Max was, and to me, I enjoyed the movie, but I never thought it would be in this category.
It's very strange to have a sequel in up for Best Picture, as well as a sort of a sci-fi fantasy movie. I think it might win the most awards of the night when you talk about a lot of the technical categories.
That hurricane, that tornado they drive into was amazing.
Yeah, it's got some really, may win visual effects, production design, costumes, things like that. It might win 5 or 6 Oscars, but I don't think it's going to win Best Picture. I think it's probably one of those other 3.
And if I could say, even though I agree with you, but I think that Room was such a fantastic opposite of what these other movies were. Such a very tightly focused movie, but so powerful in the way it's told.
Yeah, that was to be just a straight up drama. It was a very scary movie. You've seen it, and I've seen it. I'm kind of claustrophobic anyway. So
yeah,
so much of the first half is in that one little space. It made you really feel what was going on. But I don't think it's going to win Best Picture. I think its best shot at an Oscar, almost a certainty, is the leading actress Brie Larson.
Well, let's move on to Best Actor, and I think I know where you're going to go with this one. Leonardo DiCaprio has been kind of on the outs for a while. Do you think this is going to be his year? I think that's the way it seems.
The minute I walked out of seeing The Revenant, which was way back early in November, we get to see a lot of these movies in advance. I just knew he was going to win. It's such a powerful performance. This is his 6th Oscar nomination, and he's never won before. A lot of people think he's won before, but he hasn't.
Right.
And he's won everything in the last few weeks, everything from the Golden Globe to BAFTA to the SAG Awards. So I really, really think it's going to be his time.
I will say that I also caught Michael Fassbender's performance in Steve Jobs, and that was a very intense performance in kind of an odd movie. The movie is more like a play than a movie.
Yeah, like a 3-act play. You couldn't have 2 more opposite performances. Leo hardly gets to say anything in The Revenant, and Michael Fassbender is speaking a mile a minute with that Aaron Sorkin dialogue. But yeah, really, Michael probably would have won in another year, but I just think everything's lining up for Leo.
I think you're right. I think he's and I don't know why. I mean, would the overall movie itself kind of have an impact as well? I mean, like in football, the Heisman winner often has a good team, and this movie is so beautiful, and so it gives him this wonderful backdrop to act in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. There are often cases every year of people that are in Best Picture nominees and even Best Picture winners that also win on the acting side. Doesn't always happen, but usually there's at least 1 or 2 each year. I think that's going to be the case here.
So let's move on to Best Actress. Do you have a favorite for that category?
Yeah, I really think Brie Larson, just like Leo, has won everything in the weeks leading up. Her biggest competition might have been like a Kate Blanchett, but Kate just has already gotten 2 Oscars. It's really, really, really hard to get a third. Only 6 people have ever done that on the acting side. So I really think it's really all about Brie Larson, and they do like to anoint younger actresses quite
Right.
often.
Well, and also though, as I understand it, in the way that movie was made, Room, we're talking about a woman a girl who's kidnapped and has a kid in captivity, and she has to act against that kid who does a fantastic job. But you have to imagine a lot of this is her coming up with dialogue and her coming up with some kind of connection to that kid, and it's pulled off seamlessly. I mean, you feel like there's a mother and child in that room, and then later on.
I think anytime you've got a really great child performance, it's a mix of, because they really don't have the experience. It is that person they're acting opposite, and the director, really pulling that performance out. Yeah, she does a great job. The only negative in her case that we talked about before she started winning everything was she's absent from part of the last section, the last third of the movie. So when you talk about a lead performance, it was like going to hurt her, but we really haven't seen any evidence of that hurting her.
And she's such a force in the film, and even her absence, that character's absence, means so much. It's almost like it impacts the movie in that way as well. Although I know that's not acting category, but she still felt. I suppose I'm told. I suppose I'm saying.
Well, every minute, even she's off screen, she's being discussed. It kind of reminds me of people don't realize in Silence of the Lambs, which Anthony Hopkins won a lead performance. Yeah. He's only in if you add up his minutes, he's only in 20, 22 minutes of that movie. But think about it, every minute he's not on screen, they're discussing Hannibal Lecter. So it feels like he's in way more than he is.
And you can't take your eyes off him. He's the most interesting cinematic character in the past 20 years, I imagine. Maybe, yeah. Although I may be dating myself, maybe the past 25 years. I forgot when that movie came out.
That was 91 or 2. So yeah, it's been a while.
So we're going to move on to Best Supporting Actor. Now, I would see this would be kind of do you think Sylvester Stallone, he got the Golden Globe for Creed, but I wonder, do you think that that's kind of a nostalgic pick, or do you think it's a pretty powerful performance on his part?
That's a good question. That both. This category is so strange. Every which way you look, it doesn't follow the normal patterns. Stallone was not nominated at the Screen Actors Guild. Only 2 people in their history have gone on to win Oscars without having a SAG, at least nomination, not just a win, but a nomination. He wasn't nominated there. Wasn't nominated at BAFTA. So it's been a long time since people saw him on stage, way back at the Globes and Critics' Choice Awards, accepting. The other problem he has is that's the only nomination for Creed. It's not like they love this movie. So I'm picking him. He seems like a sort of a sentimental choice. Remember, Rocky won Best Picture 39 years ago. He didn't win an Oscar, though, even though it was his story. The producers won. He didn't win. So it's been a long, long, long time since he was nominated. Everybody else in the category just doesn't feel like it's their year. And like Idris Elba won at SAG. He's not even nominated at the Oscars. Mark Rylance won at BAFTA, but he wasn't able to go to that. He's been in New York working on a play. So it's kind of a strange category when you look at it. But I think when they had the Oscar nominee luncheon last week, Stallone was the single person that all of the people wanted to meet the most. He took tons of selfies with people. So I think that was a sign that they really like him.
But I think too, though, you've got The Big Short, Spotlight, and Bridge of Spies also included, also The Revenant, but almost like a way of awarding some of those Best Picture nominees without the Best Picture. But
I agree. Mark Ruffalo, I've talked to him before. He's one of the nicest and most respected people in the business, and it's his 3rd nomination. So that could be a possibility. He also didn't have a SAG nomination, so that hurts him just as much as Stallone. Christian Bale's already got an Oscar. I don't know if they're quite ready to give him a second one just 4 years later. it's an unusual pick, but I'm going to go with Stallone.
I think that's the pick. I think also the average viewer pick too. I mean, it's like the people watching at home on Sunday are going to be pulling for old Sly to win.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that happen.
Now I'll tell you that my nostalgic pick for best supporting actress would be Jennifer Jason Leigh. I didn't even see the performance. It's just nice to see her on big screen again.
You're absolutely right. I got to interview her a few weeks ago, and she is very, very shocked and honored. You know, she's been working since she was a little girl. Her father was an actor. So she's been in the business over 30 years, and this is her first Oscar nomination, believe it or not.
Wow.
I think if we were going to see her win the Oscar, though, this weekend, she would have won something else along the way, a Globe, SAG, BAFTA, something to show support. The movie doesn't have a whole lot of support. I think it's a race. The two ladies that have kind of split the whole season are Kate Winslet, Steve Jobs, and Alicia Vikander for The Danish Girl. I'm going with Alicia. It's her first year really in film, but she had like 6 movies out. So people are quite.
Ex-Machina was amazing.
Yeah, she was great in that. She had a whole. I mean, even in something like Man from U.N.C.L.E., she was really good. So they love the ingenue, the young actress that they get to discover, in supporting actress. And Kate just won a few years ago. So I'm sort of thinking it's going to be Alicia. And every time they've been up against each other, Alicia has won. When Kate has won, it's usually been because Alicia was either not in the category or nominated for something else.
Well, so in our directing category here, you're going to pronounce the winner's name for me, because everyone I've been hearing, it's been Alejandro G. How do you spell the last name? Pronounce the last name.
Iñárritu.
That's easy enough. Iñárritu. He won for Birdman last year.
He did. It's been I think it's over 60 years since somebody won directing back to back. And if Revenant wins picture, no director's ever had 2 best pictures back to back. So we're having all kind of strange, upsets and trends this year. I think it's going to be him again. If you've seen Revenant, anybody watching that's seen it, they just had such a hard time of making it. It was all outdoors. Right. They were chasing the bad weather, trying to catch that. It was months and months and months and months of. I just think he's going to be rewarded for the effort.
And beautiful cinematography. That's not him, but that's him allowing his cinematographer to play, and it really made it a very rich experience.
Yeah, he would not. It's the same cinematographer he uses all the time. The man has won 2 Oscars in a row. He's about to win a third. Iñárritu would not allow him to use any lighting of any kind. So he had only natural or lighting or indoor lighting. No equipment was brought out for the lighting. So I thought that was miraculous that they pulled that off.
Well, let's jump into animated feature film. What do you think's got it? You think Inside Out is Pixar back to form?
Yeah, it was my favorite movie of the year. I think of all 24 Oscar categories, this is probably the easiest to call. It's won every single award this season, and it plays to guys, it plays to girls. It hits all the buttons.
When I watched it a second time, I got it for Christmas, or the kids got it. Technically, I got it because they can't operate the VCR. The DVD player. But right. Watching it again just reminded of how good it was. You watch it once and you remember it being good. You think, well, it couldn't have been that good. And then watching it again, the jokes and the depth of it, the humor and the pathos that goes with it, they mix that so well at Pixar, and and nobody's done anything like that before.
Well, and they're so good to their team. I got to go to a Pixar party right before Christmas, and so many of the people in that room are responsible for every Pixar movie ever made. Pete Docter, who did this one, already has an Oscar for Up. And he was one of the writers all the way back to Toy Story. So They reward their people from within and allow them, it takes about 4 or 5 years to do a Pixar movie. They allow them to just work on their own and come up with these things and don't interfere. And I think that's the key to why they're so quality.
So I've had these last 2 categories only because I'm a writer, and this is probably the only way I'll ever even get any close to an Oscar. And you have adapted screenplay. They have The Big Short, Brooklyn, Carol, The Martian, and Room. Of those, the movie that I thoroughly enjoyed was The Martian. But
Yeah.
what do you think's got the inside track? Any ideas?
Yeah, that one's going to go to The Big Short, I believe. It's won a lot of screenplay awards. They took a book about, the financial collapse and actually made it entertaining. And I've talked to Adam McKay a couple of times about that. It was just so, they had to go through a lot of sessions of thought of how do we take this and not make it so difficult for people to understand. And I think they did a great job of that. It might be The Big Short's only win of the whole night, too.
Wow. And they made that decision about breaking the fourth wall, which, Deadpool it's all over, but Deadpool is a certain type of movie that they made some decisions in writing this that were important to the story.
Yeah, they did. If you haven't seen it, it's I know you've seen it, but they take people that are highly familiar to the audience and allow them to say, okay, we know you don't understand what's going on, so here's what's going on, and they do it in a comical way. And then you've got just a great cast. I think that's going to win there, although there have been times before, if there's an upset in this category, if people are making their picks, or Office Pool or Daily Journal Pool or whatever, Room is something to consider because the lady who wrote that book, which was highly thought of, she also wrote the screenplay. So it'd be a way of rewarding, the original person that actually came up with the story. Oh, lost my lights. There we go.
Hey, last one. I'll let you go. Original screenplay. We got Bridge of Spies, Ex Machina, Inside Out, Spotlight, and Straight Outta Compton, which I think comes out of, with the politics of this year. I wonder if that might have an inside track there.
I don't think it can win. I really, really think it's Spotlight, a film about journalists. You should love that.
Oh, yeah.
And again, it's going to be. It's interesting that both screenplay winners theoretically are also, written by their directors. So it's a way of honoring those people without giving them the directing prize. If something's going to upset here, it could be Inside Out. Again, it's so well thought of.
Right.
Pixar or an animated movie has ever won a screenplay award. So that would be truly a first.
Well, Chris, I appreciate your sharing your expertise with us. You can find Chris at goldderby.com, and he's been studying this stuff for quite some time, more than a decade, I would guess, Chris.
Well, since I was like 8, so yeah, I would say more than a decade.
Well,
no, it's like you said at the very beginning. I've been really, really fortunate, but I've worked hard for it.
Yeah.
But to have some of the things that have fallen into place now, I'm still amazed at it.
And if I may suggest to kind of the tail end here, suggest that people who are watching this, the Daily Journal has some budding filmmakers, young filmmakers, and older filmmakers who have their short films in a Daily Journal contest right now, and that's at djournal.com/entertain us. If you want to have a look, we're having contests every day, and then after the Oscars, our contest that's when our finals will be, is the week after the Oscars, and a chance to see who wins our local contest. But Chris, again, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing how your picks measure up on what they say on Sunday night, and some winners, some losers, I'm sure. But again, it's a pleasure having you here.
Well, thanks so much. It's always good to see you.
All right.